Good evening. Go ahead and call the evening to order. If we could find our seats or close to it. Great to see everybody. Great to see everybody. At this time, I want to welcome everybody to the 100th anniversary celebration of the Thomasville Rotary Club. I'd like to ask Reverend Danny Leonard to come up and lead the invocation.
Will you pray with me? Gracious God, thank you for this opportunity that you give us to come to this place and celebrate 100 years of service to this community and beyond. We thank you for those who have gone before us at the Thomasville Rotary Club and left for us a rich legacy of caring for others. God, you continue to draw men and women together who give of their time, their money, their resources for the betterment of others. And we are better off because of the fellowship that is ours at Rotary. We pray on this evening for our fellow Rotarians who are in the Ukraine and Poland and Belarus and the surrounding countries that are impacted by the war. Father, even in their time of need, they continue to work to provide necessities for those who are around them. We pray that you'll bless their work and keep them safe as they serve. And it's with gratitude that we gather this evening for food and for fellowship. Because you've blessed us, we want to be a blessing to others. Guide us and stir within us a desire to create a better world. For all the blessings of life, we give you thanks, O God. Amen.
If you will, please stand and join me as we sing the Pledge of Allegiance.
I have no idea. We would just have a vivid imagination. You know what it looks like?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask Phil Griffin to come and lead us as we sing All Hail to Rotary, accompanied by Miss Nancy Woods.
Hail to Rotary, steadfast and strong. We'll strive to hold our course through days in dark and things go wrong. Service is all we do, friends ever free. Until we meet once more, here's health to all our friends in Rotary.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Nancy, as always. At this time, we'll go ahead and begin our dinner. It is a buffet. We'll start with the back tables and make our way around just so we don't crowd the line. So we'll start here with table 12 and work our way around. So enjoy dinner, and we'll convene at about 7:30 for opening remarks and continue. See everybody. For some of us, it's been many years, and some of you all, we haven't even had the pleasure or opportunity to meet with. So we're definitely thankful for that. I do want to recognize several people who made tonight possible. Obviously, everyone who was involved in the planning process goes without saying, but a lot of behind-the-scenes workers will make things possible, and we definitely are appreciative of that. I do want to recognize, if you've heard on the way in, or if you've ever been to a Rotary meeting, we have a very special piano player that's been with us for a long time. We did want to thank her for all of her wonderful service. And that's I learned a long time ago that it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So I want to go ahead and thank kind of the main people who helped with this, and I'll just recognize them: Mary Jane Ackerman, Deb St. Sing, Elaine Rayvon, and of course Kim Cecil. It wouldn't be a Rotary function if we didn't have distinguished guests such as past district governors. And so I'd like to recognize them at this time. If you would please stand. We have past district governor Phil Morris and his wife Karen. We have past district governor Mike Conrad and his wife Mary Ann. And what I think should be an honorary Thomasville Club member is past district governor Dave McCoy and his wife. And this time I'm going to invite David to come up and make a couple recognitions as well.
It is so great to be a part of this wonderful celebration. I feel very much part of the Thomasville Club. And so I tell Carol Hughes that when she throws me out of the High Point Club, I know exactly where I'm going. And that's the Thomasville Club. But it is great to be here this evening. And I would like at this moment for all of the past presidents who were in attendance to stand up. These are the leaders that direct the clubs and have really made a powerful difference in what this club has been able to accomplish. So all the past presidents, please stand up. Foundation, to me, is what makes Rotary so powerful. It allows us to do what we couldn't do as individuals or individual clubs. It is the power of the Rotary Foundation. It makes a difference around the world. The Thomasville Club has been extremely strong in the support of the Rotary Foundation. One area is with the Paul Harris Society. Now let me explain what the Paul Harris Society is. It is different than Paul Harris Fellow. Paul Harris Fellow is $1,000 one time to become a Paul Harris Fellow. Paul Harris Society is a commitment on the part of Rotary, or the Rotarians, to give at least $1,000 per year for as long as they're financially able. This club, Thomasville Club, has 13 Paul Harris Society members. I would like to recognize them, and as I do, I'd like for them to stand and remain standing. Because I think when you see the number of people in here standing, that shows you the impact of what we do as Rotarians. Christian Brandenberry, Kim Cecil, Joe Hedgepad, Wayne Herrick, Doug Hunt, Sonny Coombs, Carl Miller, Jed Orman, Larry Perdue, Elaine Raybon. She was back there trying to keep me under control of my day. And she's still able to stand. Deborah Sankson, who also was trying to keep me under control. Wayne Underwood, and one is $10,000 accumulated over time. I'd like to recognize the major donor level ones, if they would stand and be recognized. Tim Cecil, and remain standing. Wayne Herrick, a longtime member of the Rotary Club of Thomasville, a former director of Rotary International, representing Zone 33 and 34, and at the time that was from Delaware all the way down to the islands. And that is Fred Lambeth. And he was also a major donor level one, and Carl Millerman is also a major donor. So let's give them a warm welcome. Let me go to level 2 major donor. And this club has 3. I would like Sonny Coons to stand, Wes Patterson, and David Williams. Then there comes another category of those who remember the Rotary Foundation in their will. That after they die, the money that they donate goes to the permanent fund. The principal is never spent, only the income from it. This club, again, has shown a major empowerment to the Rotary Foundation. Bequest Society Level 1, Deborah Sing. David Snap, your president. And Bob Sprinkle. Then the next level, keep standing, the next level is level 2, Bequest Society Level 2. And that is Christian Brandenburg. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support. And it's just wonderful to be here with such a powerful group of Rotarians, a wonderful group of Rotarians. Dave, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Well, it's my privilege. Thank you, David. We appreciate that very much. Before I introduce our speaker, I would like to ask you to please make sure you silence your cell phones. When our committee met to plan this portion of our program, we decided we wanted to invite a speaker who would entertain us and at the same time give us something inspirational to take home. I'm very pleased to tell you that we have found that combination in Glenn Ward. Glenn comes to us from Columbia, South Carolina. He's married to Denise and they have 2 grown children. Something that I think is really fascinating is Glenn has been to Thomasville recently. He was here in January and spoke at the Chamber annual meeting. Did a fantastic job. Also, he's a member of the Columbia, South Carolina Rotary Club, has been for 20 years. He's a Paul Harris Fellow. He does speaking events at events for Rotary such as PETS, district conferences, club meetings, and obviously wonderful celebrations like we're able to have tonight. According to his website, he addresses audiences all across America as a full-time professional humorist and an inspirational speaker. I feel sure you'll enjoy his impersonations as well as his singing voice as he impersonates well-known musical celebrities. I'm also hoping he will share with us some of his childhood stories growing up in a minister's home. You're really in for a treat if you haven't heard him speak yet. So please sit back, relax, let's have a good time with our speaker, Glenn Ward.
Thank you very much, David. I truly appreciate being invited back to Thomasville, North Carolina. As he said, I was here back in January, Keith Tobin had me speak for the chamber meeting right in this very same room in this very same spot. So it's like deja vu all over again. And I know that some of the same audience members are here because of the big overlap between Rotary and the chamber. But I do have a different program. I have my notes, but I do have a couple of things that folks have asked me to say that I did back in January. So not too much overlap, just a little. But I know what a big night this is because my club in Columbia, South Carolina celebrated our 100th anniversary just a few years ago. And I was privileged to be a part of that meeting as well. So my hat's off to you. This is absolutely wonderful, and thank you for inviting me to be here for such a momentous occasion. It really means a lot. The last time I was here, I was greeted by a gentleman. I won't call any names, but it rhymes with Roger Bryant. And he looked at me. I noticed he was looking at my head. And he said, right over here, as I walked in, he said, well, you're our speaker. And I said, yes, Mr. Bryant, I'm Glenn Ward from Columbia, South Carolina. He said, you're a bald-headed man, aren't you? I said, yes, sir. And he asked me, he said, do you cut your own hair? I actually do. I said, I got tired of paying $15 for having not much done, so I cut my own hair. So we have that in common.
He still pays.
Well, he does. He doesn't have the Scottish blood in him aside like that. Now, then your mayor came up, Mayor York came up to me after the program, and he gave me the lapel pin off of his lapel, the City of Thomasville lapel pin, and I told him how much I appreciated that. I've kept it in a special place, and I wore it tonight, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for doing that. Very kind. So again, I feel right at home. I'm with my third cousin, Kim Cecil. And I'm not making that up. I know in South Carolina, North Carolina, we're all kin. But she and I, when she called me to come to be here, she'll tell you, she said, Glenn, I'm from High Point, Lexington, Thomasville area. The Thomasville Rotary Club is having it. She gave me the scoop. I said, well, I know the lay of the land. My mother's from Asheboro, North Carolina, Asheboro Seagrove. I have relatives still there. And I started naming off the relatives, and she said, I'm kin to those families as well. And we started doing our family tree, and no kidding, we are third cousins. So cousin Jim, good to see you tonight. But with that, you know, when you travel, even outside of the Carolinas, as I do, and I know you do as well, you get into some kind of unusual things where people are checking you out. And we Southerners check each other out by asking each other, who's your daddy? That's what we do. There's a reason we do that. All right? But in my Rotary Club, there's a good reason, because in my Rotary Club, we have a guy named Jim Covington, whose 90-something-year-old mom had passed away. And I said, Jim, I'm really sorry that your mom passed away. He said, well, thank you, Glenn. He said, but Mom had a long and lovely life. And he said, you know, did you read her obituary? I said, I did. He said, well, if you got confused, let me explain to you. He said, Mom was a Covington, and she married a Covington. I said, okay, I understand that happened. He said, but what was confusing, her mother was a Covington too. And I looked at her and said, Jim, you don't have any forks in your family tree. It's like one branch just going right up. But anyhow, that's just where we are. But what I'm getting at, we do check each other out. And I was in a place called Owensboro, Kentucky a while back. I was there to speak for a luncheon. And you know that Ohio River runs through there, and there's like an accent fault line that runs through that part of the country. Part of the folks sound like they're from the Midwest. The other folks sound like they're from that Kentucky, you know, Western North Carolina, you know, East Tennessee type, you know what I'm talking about. And I was sitting there eating my lunch, or trying to, and I was making conversation, and it got the best of me. The lady to my left had this Midwestern accent. I said, ma'am, let me just ask you something. Are you from the Midwest originally? I thought she was going to faint. She said, wow, how did you know that? I'm from Illinois. You mean you could just sit here and listen to me eat lunch and talk, and you could tell I'm from the Midwest? And I said, don't worry about it, ma'am. I said, I'm a humorist and I do impersonations. I said, it's just something I do. And about that time, the guy to my right said, you're from down there in South Carolina, aren't you? And I thought to myself, yes, sir, and I know what side of the Ohio River you're from. Sounded just like my granddaddy from Asheboro, North Carolina talking is what he sounded like. So we do these little things as we check each other out. But I was watching one of my favorite shows. David was telling me he's from this neck of the woods down there around Camp Lejeune area. Out of Jacksonville, North Carolina, there was a show called Swamp Loggers. And these guys would go into these unthinkable places, this big heavy equipment. They would cut these logs and they would haul them out of these dirty, muddy, boggy places back to the lumber yard. And I was watching this show one night, and this guy was driving this log truck out of this unthinkable place, and he almost turned the thing over because it was just one of those roads like that. He got it back to the lumber yard safely, but he jumped down out of the cab of the truck, and he was telling Bobby, the owner of the lumber yard, what had almost happened. And his accent was so strong, so southern, they had to put the text of what he was saying at the bottom of the TV screen as if he were from Germany or Sweden or something. And he said, that thing right there, it just got turned over around and something like that. Everybody around him, you killed or something like that around here. I didn't need the text of what he was saying. I knew exactly what that old boy was saying. Every word. I didn't need it. Well, that's just who we are. And we know we get picked at sometimes, but that's just who we are in the Carolinas. In my home state of South Carolina, we had a man who served us in the United States Senate, speaking of 100 years, who lived to be 100 years old, Senator Strom Thurmond. And he would say things from the floor of the United States Senate that you had to kind of scratch your head a little bit. He would say, the reason people are living longer today is because they're not dying sooner. What did he say? But anyhow, then, this is a while back now, but it was just too cute to be true, but it happened. He was chairing the Senate Armed Services Committee. We change senators in South Carolina every 50 years, whether we need to or not. And he had been there so long that he had all the seniority, and he was in his 90s, and he was chairing the Senate Armed Services Committee. And they brought in General Norman Schwarzkopf right after the Persian Gulf War. And they were debriefing the general. And Senator Thurmond was reading his questions. Nothing wrong with that. But he said, General, how do you feel the United States military did in the Persian Gulf War? And he almost needed an aide to interpret what was being asked of him, but he got it. He said, Senator Thurmond, we went over there. 43 days later, we took care of Saddam Hussein. I'm very proud of all branches of the armed forces and that sort of thing. Senator Thurmond looked back at his notes and said, if the general answers yes, ask him if he also feels. Kind of stepped on his footnotes there. Anyhow, one of your former senators, senior senators, Senator Helms, said this. This was when President Clinton was in office, and I'm not a political speaker, I'm just having fun with you, okay? He said, if our president steps foot on a military base in the state of North Carolina, he runs the risk of being assassinated. And I'm thinking, no, you can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say that. I can't say that. You can't say that, but he said that. You know, now when we have this new guy in the Senate, John Kennedy, not the one from Massachusetts, that's long gone, but the one from Louisiana, he's like too cute to be true. He knows that he has these one-liners, and he comes across as this country lawyer, but he's really an Oxford-educated man, and he sits there and he does things with his mouth, kind of like Mr. Haney, and he has this accent. He's like, now, I don't understand. I'm having a problem really getting this correct. Now, if we allow you, Dr. David Williams, to serve on the Supreme Court, that's a big job. Lifetime appointment. If we appoint you to this, will you promise us that you will withhold and uphold and do the four-way test? Do you promise? I feel good about that all over as anywhere else. You never know what he's going to say, and the whole time he's just working you like I don't know what. But anyhow, so goes that. Again, this is not politics, this is just fun. All right, now, getting back to home. As a humorist, I find humor everywhere I go. At Rotary, at airports, I find humor everywhere, even in the home. Now, I'm not going to go through the list of things I shared with you at the chamber meeting back in January, but I have 2 new things that I'll share with you relating to medical things. My son is now 26 years old. He will be on the 17th of this month, day of this month. And when he was a young guy, about 11, we were traveling down the road one day in Columbia, South Carolina, and he started firing these questions off at me, these father-son questions, if you know what I mean. And he asked me, he said, Daddy, Mommy said that when she had me, that you were there in the hospital room when she had me. I said, Trey, I was there with your mom, right by her bedside, when she gave birth to you 3 years later at the same hospital with your sister Emily, right by your mom's bedside on both occasions. What do you want me to tell you? He said, well, Mommy said that whenever the doctor, she had me, and the doctor handed you the scissors, you cut the extension cord. Am I still on my mic? All right, hold on just a minute. I might have, 1, 2, 3. There we go again. Okay, I think I hit the button. I'm sorry. But he thought that I had cut the extension cord. All right, at the Angus Barn Restaurant in Raleigh, North Carolina, I was walking out one night after speaking to this lovely group, and this nurse came up to me and she said, Glenn, she said, let me give you something else to add to your medical things that you make humor of. She said, I work in labor and delivery. I forgot which hospital up there. But anyhow, she said, they wheeled in this patient one night, obviously this lady getting ready to have a baby, and she said, we were attending her. And we told the lady that she was in a good place, a good team, her doctor had been called, we were giving her IVs, the baby's heartbeat was fine, her vitals were fine. All we wanted her to do was just lie there and relax, and everything was going to be all right. We were trying to reassure her of that. She said, but that lady looked back up at me and the other nurses with big dilated eyes, as nervous as she could be, and she said, I know, but I just want y'all to call my doctor and get him to this hospital right now. I want you to call him on his cell phone. I want him to hurry up and get here and seduce me and take care of this. She said, I didn't do it. But I wanted to say, honey, that happened to you a while back. But just the things you hear every day out there in life is just too good to be true sometimes. All right, now, let me ask y'all this. Do you have this happen at Sunday school at church and or at Rotary, or even Keith at the chamber meeting? It happens everywhere, I know, because it happens to me, and I know it has to happen to you, where folks will come up to you and show you now, with everybody with a smartphone now, whipping those things out and showing you a picture of their child or their grandchild, brand new. And they say, isn't my grandbaby so pretty? It was born last week, and they show you a brand new picture of a brand new baby, and you look at it and you go, that is a beautiful child. Knowing you've just broken the first of the four-way pledge. No truth to be found in that statement. All right, let me explain so you won't think I'm being mean. Now, some folks asked my wife and me to go down to the Baptist Hospital in Columbia, South Carolina, where we lived a while back, to be with them where their baby was born. And that was sweet. And we went. We were sitting in the waiting room reading those 3-year-old National Geographic magazines, waiting. After a while, they said, the baby's here, everybody's fine, y'all can come back. We went down the hall, and I looked in the nursery. And I know, Dr. Williams, you've seen this many times, they bringing those babies in and giving them shots and poking on them and examining them and doing all that. And I was standing there with the glass, and I was looking through with everybody else, and we were just looking at this brand new baby girl, and both grandmothers were there. And I heard the paternal grandmother say, ooh, I believe that grandbaby of mine looks just like my son when he was first born. And the maternal grandmother said, well, I don't know. I think she looks like my daughter when she was first born. They were having a friendly, grandmotherly argument over who the brand new baby looked like. I didn't say a word. I kept my mouth shut, but I want to say, ladies, I know who the baby looks like. And it's not Mark, and it's not Jennifer. I know who the baby looks like. Yasser Arafat is number one, and Alfred Hitchcock number 2. They all look like that. They put that little hat on their head and take a picture of it. And then they take it to Sunday school and Rotary and ask you, isn't that a pretty baby? After about 3 weeks, yes, but when they're first born, no. So don't break the first part of the 4-way test. Do what I do. Just take a picture in your hand and look at it and go, and hand it back to it. That's all you got to do. Just hand it back. That works. I'm telling you, it works. And then a little closer to home. I'm going to spend the night here in Thomasville tomorrow morning. My wife will ask me, did you pick on me when you were up there with those good folks? And Tom would say, well, yes, honey, I did. She expects it by now. But we will celebrate our 32nd wedding anniversary next month. This is the time of the year we're just celebrating all kinds of things, it seems. 32 wonderful years. Thank the good Lord for that. But it's spooky when you live in the same house with the same person for 32 years, how well you get to know someone. I can leave where we're watching TV, the den, go into the other room, the kitchen, and be getting something, a little snack, out of our pantry. And my wife will say, bring me one of those. And I'll say, Denise, what am I getting? How do you know? She said, you get one of those oatmeal raisin cookies. I said, how can you tell? She said, I can tell by the way the bag rattles. Like eyes in the back of her head, every move I make. Unbelievable. We get dressed, we get ready to go somewhere, and she comes out and looks at me and says, are you going to wear that? Which is code language for go change your shirt or your tie or whatever. All right, then she goes in there. Doesn't take me long to do my hair, so I'm ready to go. She goes in and she's done. Way back there in the back of the house doing whatever for I don't know how long. Finally, she comes out with a different shoe on each foot, you know, from 2 different pairs, and asks me, what shoes should I wear with this outfit? I say, I can't dress myself. How can I tell you how? These different shoes, I don't know. But then you go out somewhere really nice to eat because it is a special occasion, like tonight, to a nice place. And when we first got married, you know, you really worry when you're a young couple about the finances and all, but you go somewhere really nice, and you know you're in a special place when they have the leather-bound menus that are not bifold but trifold with the gold trim around them. And you're sitting there just hoping, you know, the American Express is maxed out and all that. And all of a sudden my wife would say things like, I figured out what I want. I said, what do you want, honey? She said, right here, the chef would like to offer you tonight the special, which is the gourmet catfish, which has been pan-seared in extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed. A holiday sauce with a fresh medley of vegetables, garden salad with croutons, and all these things on it, all this stuff, all the French words thrown in and everything, and Goose, that's what I want. I said, wait a minute, honey, don't get that. She said, wow, we can't afford it? I said, get anything, get the filet, get the lobster, get whatever you want. It's a special night, whatever you want, but don't get that. Why? I said, because my mama is from Asheboro/Seagrove, North Carolina, and your daddy is from Newbern, North Carolina, and we know from North and South Carolina that there's nothing gourmet about a catfish. I'll buy it. If on the menu, they'll put it right below the kids' menu. And just be honest about the things that we like to offer you. The poor boy special, which is the fried catfish, which was caught by a man wearing a pair of rubber knee boots at High Rock Lake. And he had a 4-aught eagle claw hook with some gizzards on there. And he threw it out there, and he caught the catfish and put him in a 5-gallon bucket, half full of muddy water, brought him to his backyard, nailed his head to an oak tree with a 16-penny nail, took a pair of rusty pliers out of his toolbox and skinned him. We're going to deep fat fry him in Mazola corn oil, serve him with coleslaw, hush puppies, French fries, banana pudding, and sweet tea. I'd buy the thing. But it's not gourmet, okay? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to say. So we got that figured out after many years. Okay, now, music is another thing we have, and we've been enjoying beautiful music tonight, Miss Nancy. It just adds so much to have music. We have music in our Rotary Club, too. A lot of clubs don't have that, but it's a blessing. It really is. Music's a blessing anytime, anywhere. My 80-year-old mom still plays the piano in her church in Columbia, South Carolina. Started playing piano in Seagrove, North Carolina, I believe the age of 11, something like that. All these years, music, love it. Well, at my home, when I was growing up in a minister's home, my mom made me stand by the piano and learn old songs. And I thought it was child abuse. I didn't want to learn old songs. I wanted to go outside and play. She said, no, we've got to sing Sunday night in church. So you're going to stand here and learn this song. Yes, ma'am. Well, now we have all sorts of music, and my wife likes to hear certain types, and I like certain types, and sometimes it comes together, but sometimes not. But she likes Johnny Mathis. I love you to the 12 of never, and that's so long, long. It's like these pauses just keep jumping out there for some reason. My wife likes, or did like, the Bee Gees when they were alive and well and living. I think there's one of them left now. We were watching TV one night, obviously a while back, and she said, please leave it on that channel. I said, okay, here's the remote control. I have to do that if we leave anything on for any length of time, because I am a professional remote control changer. Because when I was a child, we had 3 TV stations, and I would go out in the backyard and turn the antenna like that, you know? For my grandparents, it'd be towards Greensboro or wherever, you know, pick up the channel. Anyhow, we've got all this cable stuff now and all, you don't have to worry about that. But I gave it to her, and she was watching the Bee Gees. And she was oohing and awing over these 3 guys singing. And in my male analytical mind, I'm trying to figure out why my wife likes these guys so much. And the one in the middle, by the name of Robin, with a very pronounced overbite, sang differently than his brother, Barry. And they sang something like this. Robin would say, I can dream of younger days when living for my life was everything a man could want to do. I could never see tomorrow. No one said a word about the sorrow. Then Barry said, when he did that, my wife said, woo! Can anybody please explain to me why a grown man has to go before he starts singing? I don't understand it to this day, but my wife likes it. So sometime at night I walk through the house saying, hey, Denise, what? And that's as far as we're going to go with that. Okay? But it's just one of those crazy things. And I still don't know what hi-ya-ya-ya means, but whatever. Now, I did this last time I was here, back in January, but Cousin Kim wanted me to sing or have Mr. Feeney from Lawrence Welk, the Irish tenor, back singing Oh Danny Boy again. So if he were here, it would probably sound something like this. Oh Danny Boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. 'Tis you must go and I must buy. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be true in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. Thank you. Now, my daughter is getting married next weekend, and so again, a lot to celebrate this time of year. We're not bringing Aaron Neville in to sing because we'd have to pay him to come all the way in from New Orleans, and he has so much vibrato in his voice that if he were to sing, it would probably sound like this. It just goes that voice. But we also opted to do something other than what I call the opera lady too. When I was growing up in church, you didn't have just Miss So-and-so from the church to sing. Oh, no. You had to go to Raleigh or Charlotte or Atlanta somewhere and bring in the operatic voice ladies. And they would get up and look, watch the face now, and sound like this. They wouldn't start out doing it, but it would kick in, and it went something like this. From Ashford, North Carolina, used to tell us she was swimmy-headed. You know what that means, right? Swimmy-headed. Whatever, I guess her blood pressure was up, so swimmy-headed. She might have been swimmy-headed, but when she saw that on her TV, she would gouge us in the ribs and say, y'all turn your head. That's uncalled for. You don't have to make a face like that. You don't have to make a face like that. All right, now let me share this last one with you, and then I'm coming to my wind-up. This happened to me when I was a little boy, and my dad's church in a little town called Andrews, South Carolina, which is near Georgetown, South Carolina, kind of near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. All right. In that little church, we had a lady by the name of Mrs. Bessie Powers. She was sweet, and I say this with all due respect. She was on up into years, beautiful white hair. She was just lovely. And she would come to church, and when she walked in the door, everyone knew her and loved her. And they would beg Mama Powers, as she was known, to please sing one of her songs during the service. So Miss Powers would come in, and my dad, the minister, would see what was going on. So during the service, he would call Miss Powers down to the front to bless us with one of her songs. My mother playing the piano would get the introduction of the song underway. And Miss Powers would come up with her little pocketbook and her little sheet music, digging through there and plot the music down. And I was about 10, 11, 12 years old watching this lady, dared not laugh because I knew that my dad could see me. You know, if you can see the preacher, he can see you. And all my daddy had to do was just move his lips and say, wait till I get you home. And I knew what wait till I get you home meant. So I didn't cut up in church. But I watched this dear lady with eyes and ears open, and I observed everything she did. And she started out singing with this sweet little, I've sung one too many song type voices. And she pointed at people when she sang. You might say, well, you can't do it. Well, she did. As she was singing, and one of her songs went something like this. I'm building a bridge across the divide. I'm building it strong. I'm building it wide. God gave me the plan. I'm following through. I'll make it somehow. But how about you? She just pointed at people and like, whoa. But that's what she did. My dad knew me well. On the way home from church, he'd say, son, whatever happened in church stays in church. He didn't want me imitating his church members. As soon as I got in my bedroom and closed the door, I was standing in front of my mirror. I'm beautiful. Just kind of had to come out, you know. So, long story short, right to the point, her daughter called me from Myrtle Beach one day and said, Glenn, this is Miss Benton. Do you remember me? I said, yes, you're Mama Power's daughter. She said, yes. She said, the reason I'm calling you, Mother will celebrate her 100th her 100th birthday next month. Will you and Denise come to the little town of Andrews where you used to live as a little boy and help us celebrate Mom's 100th birthday? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, we want to put you on the program. I said, well, you want me to read a poem or something? She said, no. We want you to come and sing like Mama. And I said, is she going to be there? She said, if Mom's having one of her good days, yes, she'll be there. I said, ma'am, I don't think I can do that. She said, we heard that you go all over the country singing like our mom in your speaking engagements, and we want you to do it for us and for her on her big day. I said, all right. Denise and I got there thinking there'd be about 30, 40 people there. The 3-tiered layered pew church was packed. Packed. Mama Powers was seated by the pulpit in her little wheelchair with a little Afghan draped over her to keep her warm, frail, 100 years old. And they had a program with my name on it, just like tonight. They said, go sit in the choir area. When your turn comes, just come up and do your thing. With fear and trembling and a bead of sweat running down my spine, not knowing if these folks would get mad at me or take it the wrong way or thinking I was being disrespectful, I got up and I did what I was asked to do, and I started singing, I'm building a bridge. The whole thing, as I remember, the place erupted in laughter. They started clapping. They understood where I was coming from and what I was doing. They didn't throw hymnals at me after all. I was so relieved I sang an extra verse to the song. You have no idea how relieved I was. When the whole thing was over, Miss Powers' granddaughter came up to me and said, Grandma, I want to know who you were. And she said, she looked up at us and asked, who was that man who sang at my birthday? I said, Grandma, that was Reverend Ward's son Glenn, don't you? She said, yes, he has a beautiful voice. This little sweet lady was born October the 19th, 1895, when Grover Cleveland was president. She lived 101 years and 4 months, died in February of 1997 when President Clinton was in office. She saw 19 U.S. presidents, the Spanish flu, World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, and everything imaginable that life can throw at someone in 101 years. And on her deathbed, her daughter told me this later, she said, she looked up at them and asked them, do y'all remember those old songs I used to sing? They said, yes, Mom. Yes, well, what about them? She said, those old songs still ring and ring and ring in my mind. And I thought to myself, isn't it grand to live all that while, see all those things, good and bad, positive and negative, and leave out of here with a song in your heart. All those years. And this is what I'm coming to, and I'll say this as I truly wrap up. I promise I'll let you out before the Waffle House closes tonight. Just to the point. I was thinking about our being here tonight. We have photos and records of a club that's existed now since 1922. That's a long time. But 100 years from now, should this old world be here by then, and the good Lord tarry, as we say in church, someone 100 years from now will be looking at the pictures taken of us. And they'll be looking at who was here, and maybe some of your grandchildren or great-grandchildren will be Rotarians, and they'll be talking about us, and that perhaps that bald-headed guy they brought in from Columbia to speak, whatever will be said in the annals of the club, will be written up, documented, and people will look back and look toward us, back at us, as we have looked back at others. And I just hope and pray that they will say of us, as we have said of Miss Powers and our forefathers, and those who founded this club just 4 years after the Spanish flu ravished the world, including our nation. They will say, you know, those folks just on the heels of this thing called COVID, where they were shut down and couldn't meet, came back in a very lovely country club environment and laughed and ate together and enjoyed each other's company and had a grand evening. And they even had music. And they talked about the blessing of music. And probably most importantly, they loved each other. And it showed, because in all that they did, as busy as they were, in their church and their chamber and everything else they did, they took time to raise money and give money and do things for polio eradication and a whole lot of other things. And they were people who laughed and who loved the lyrics of songs and music and who loved each other. That's my prayer, that 100 years from tonight, when our descendants gather, that they'll say that of us. God bless you. I love you and thank you so much for letting me come. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Glenn touched on a lot of things that I think we're all very fortunate to be here tonight. A couple years ago, as I started, been serving on the board, and we were talking about what was to come and what the lineage of presidency was, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's going to be the year I'm hosting. And there's a lot of things that we have to be thankful for, and we really didn't know if we would even be in a place to be able to gather. So we do have a lot to be thankful for. I do want to thank Glenn for being our speaker tonight, and just a couple closing remarks before we go. Hope we've all learned something from Glenn that'll change our minds, change our hearts as we leave. Also, obviously, want to thank our past district governors in attendance, as we mentioned before. I do obviously want to recognize one final time everybody who helped put the event together. So one of the things when Kim said, now you've got to say something at the end, and if you've served in any capacity in the club, you know that whatever Kim tells you to do, you've got to do. Otherwise, you get stuck with the prayer about 7 months in a row. So I sat, and she said, have you done your closing remarks? Yeah, I have done. I'm like, yeah, Kim, I've got this planned out. I'm going to do it on the flight. I've got about 5 hours. I know exactly what I'll do. I've got this. I've got to get through some things. I'm going to make my closing remarks. I sat there and I thought, and I just really struggled. I wanted to have something, where 100 years. What things can be 100 years? I mentioned those the very first meeting that we had after I assumed the role from Hope, and I thought about all the things that turn 100 years old this year. And what could we say that would leave some kind of impact? And I tried, and I sat there at my computer and looked and stared and looked around, and I just had absolutely nothing. And then I realized that you know that I'm very open about my faith and why things happen, and it was that there's nothing that I could say that's really worth the paper it's written on. And honestly, the words that we share with each other, if we look at the 4-way test, there's the first part, and that's it. Everything else is about our actions and what we're called to do. See, honestly, just all the times that I've shared with the club, just how blessed we are to be here, just happen to be president of the club during the 100th anniversary. And for some reason, I believe God chose our family, not just me, because it is a team effort, to lead the meetings this year, and it's definitely been an honor. I am confident there's at least 99 other Rotarians. And so let me pause for a second. 99 other Rotarians, which means we have There are 99 other Rotarians who could stand up here and deliver comments just as well or better than I could. Or definitely have a lot more knowledge of the club and of the history, and certainly could provide better examples than I can. But as Rotarians, we are called to action. And I'd like for us to lead by example and through our humble nature. We're called to serve. We're called to serve through action, be it financially, through our time, through our talent. No one joined Rotary by mistake. Judy Johnson invited me. Wayne Underwood was the president when I became a member. Everybody had an important part in that decision to become a Rotarian. Everybody that's here as a member made a very conscious effort to join something that's bigger than themselves. And all of us, I believe, we're better for it. If you haven't been to a Rotary function before, then you may not know, but just about all of us have, and our spouses as well. You know that we end with the four-way test. We're reminded constantly of the things that we recite, such as the Pledge of Allegiance. In some faiths, it's prayers, maybe the Little League pledge at baseball games, and obviously the four-way test. But how many of us really stop to think about the words that we're saying? I want to focus on one line in particular tonight. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? How many of us like doing things or service projects or serving on boards with people that we don't get along with? It makes it tough. I'm very fortunate we've got an amazing board, obviously, here. But you see, I'm a firm believer that we all have a talent to share in some way, shape, or form, in some way that we can help others. But when we do any activity, if we focus on the goodwill and the friendship portion, it becomes so much easier to act on those talents. So much easier to follow through on what we want to do every day. We honestly may not like what we're doing, but if we really focus on the fact that we know it's building a better society, then it's not done in vain. I know there's people that are tough to get along with. I know I'm hard to get along with. I also know that it's tough to build friendships with NC State fans sometimes. But, there's plenty of us who have proven that is possible. Even NC State and even Duke fans every now and then. I think that if we show, and I think that goodwill is contagious. I think that if we show, not just say, let's show that we're acting in a manner that's focused on the goodwill of society, it will lead to an impact like we can only dream of. Here in Thomasville, we are making a difference. It's more than that. So as past District Governor Dave McCoy can tell you, all about the difference our club makes with the Rotary Foundation, and we appreciate that. My point is this, and it's very simple. My ask of everyone tonight is that we don't just recite something. We don't just recite the four-way test. My ask is that we say things with conviction, with meaning, with purpose, with feeling, with hunger, with motivation, with character, with compassion, with love, and with our friends. And I know that after we've said the four-way test, we are truly ready to leave here and make a difference in the lives of everyone around us. So I want to thank everybody one last time for coming tonight. And if you will, please join me in really saying the four-way test. So as at the end of every meeting, nobody has, at least not that I know, nobody has to leave here to go back to work after we're done with our meeting tonight. I want to encourage you, spend time with folks that you haven't seen before, spend time with folks that you haven't met, spend time with those around you and your loved ones, and have a safe travel home. But as we go out into the world to make a difference, I want us to focus on the four things and ask ourselves, first, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?